Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the next episode of our Nightmare difficulty playthrough. And as you remember from where we left off in our last episode, we are moving into the Shadowland Temple in order to progress into the final sections and final area of the fight. And this should be pretty interesting to see what curse attributes are allowed in some of these different fights. I'm particularly interested to see what happens or what changes they make with the Electra fight, or if they make any changes whatsoever. So let's go ahead and jump in here. Now, generally, because I do speedrun this game, I do tend to glance through a lot of the opponents and the combat, but I'm also trying to make sure that we can grind up our team, and I'm still working on Black Widow a little bit, so I won't be glossing over as much as the combat as I tend to do so when I'm playing through this normally. But let's go ahead and get our Gravity Surge set up here for when our opponents come in, and it looks like we've got the curse that heals different teammates, or different opponents, I guess I should say. But we were able to take him out pretty handily, so that works well enough for us. We've got a Daredevil cutscene that we can skip through. None of the cutscenes are different at all with the overall change here. So let's get past here. Now, some of the danger rooms do have some differences to this combat section, where they have a couple of different items that pop in. But let's knock into this box. These ones aren't giving us a whole lot of really useful items at all. Hopefully that stays active as this fight ramps up, and it unfortunately does not. So it looks like we've got a gravity of movement slowing effect. But nothing super detrimental here. And the last teammate down there. So we're looking pretty good. And now we'll just want to bump on ahead to the Electra fight. And this was one of the areas that I'm most interested to see how and what changes were made to it. Yeah, it looks like Electra has the slow attribute added to her. Let's pull these hand mystics into the middle, so they're all nice, localized, and ready to be lined up for one large scale assault here. Looks like we've got an ice opponent and an electric opponent coming in here, and a healing one over here on this edge. And let's bring these people in again. I think I just managed to get blasted out of that before it was able to activate. Because the only one that's really been able to stave off the use of my abilities has been the bombs and large explosions. There are a couple of others that can play into it, but let's use our extreme attacks here. It looks like we didn't quite get enough, but with a couple of short abilities there, we were able to clean up the fight quite nicely. And now we can move on towards the bullseye fight, but there is one rare box there. It looks like it had some pretty low tier ISO in it. And now let's go ahead and get this, and it's got one of my least favorite abilities down there, that being the poison. But I think they're all done and accounted for at this point, so let's just double back and take on these clowns. And another, I mean, that's not as low tier, so that's better, I suppose. And then there is a couple of rare boxes right here. There's one, like, almost immediately after finding it. you know, we get blasted out of that. And then let's just go ahead and take advantage of this. Maybe, if we can actually get a hit on here. Now this is interesting. There's not a synergy wall protecting this box, or at least it didn't render in, because anything else that we would have seen would indicate that it does indeed have a synergy wall. So it's weird that that did not spawn in right on the get-go there. So let's get these guys in. And we've got a couple more of them that are going to be up here on this ledge. So let's bring them in a little closer to make sure we can get them in one swoop. And no one fell down onto the lower deck from what I can tell. Even if they had, we're not going to chase after them. And now we have the bullseye combat, which is going to be interesting to see what they do with him. I'm half expecting him to have poison because he's had that in a couple of the rifts. So that's not the largest surprise that I've ever encountered here. But we will hold on to our extreme attacks because it's going to be better for us to have those online and ready to go by the time the Kingpin fight comes around.
Do me a favor and die already.
Now, this poison attribute is one of the few that can reliably gimp what Thanos is throwing out. Apart from that, he tends to do pretty well, and we've got a damage reflection opponent in here as well. And Bullseye's down before this opponent can really do much for him, which is good because I don't like the ones that heal up our opponents. Alright, and then up to this level, where here's another speedrun tactic that I'm going to kind of show off. And that is going to involve some strategic placing of these statues. Now, what you'll want to do is kind of move them almost over the pressure plate that they correspond to. But you don't want to push them all the way over until you've got all of them where you want them. And then what I'm going to do next is right before I do, I'm going to set up my gravity surge over here so I can get any of my opponents that do spawn in brought out of the area of effective range, so I can just get... Oh no, I've got a gravity guy of my own pulling me away here. Okay, now I'm out of his effective range. Oh, come on. Let's get these guys put in. Now, that tends to go a little bit smoother in an actual speed run, mainly due to the fact that, you know, I'm not competing with... Come on. Don't blast me. That was not what I meant to do, and that's probably going to set me back a bit in the Kingpin fight. Which is okay. I'd rather it didn't. So now we've just got to take on these guys here on the stairs. And it's good that, you know, this is not a competitive run of any of these maps that I've done before. And we probably have some time to get some of these points back. Those guys are done. Those guys are done. And I probably hit that a little prematurely. Yeah, there's no way we're getting the Kingpin. Well, we don't want to have our extreme attack right off the bat here. And it's interesting that we're getting this... Okay, so this one definitely didn't have the synergy wall protecting it as it normally does, which is not what generally happens there. So that one does have me a little befuddled. But the other one really should have had that synergy wall. So that's twice that we've seen it not necessarily working as intended. And then we've got some trivial ISO there, so nothing super noteworthy. Then let's see if we can get Thanos' extreme ability back online here. By the time we get Kingpin into his second phase, it's unlikely that that's going to happen, especially because we're already here. We've got about half of him down. And he's got the curse active, which will activate infection on adjacent enemies and allies. It looks like Black Widow and Doom hasn't had that. But we've got all of the grunts out. Alright. Well, let's see if we can get this to work in our favor. Oh, it did work. It did work. Let's hit those three then. And that ought to do it for the Kingpin. That went actually rather smoothly. A lot smoother than I thought that it would have. Very non-typical approach, but it did indeed work. So let's chat with Jessica so we can move on to Avengers Tower.
You guys are probably going to want to take a look at these.
And now that we're in Avengers Tower, we'll talk to Vision and get the next section underway.
Perimeter scans reveal no external threats to Avengers Tower.
Greeted by Ultron, and now for the first couple areas of combat. We're going to go to the living room, or the place where we meet up with Wasp here, before we call today's episode, because I think that's a pretty good stopping point. And let's go ahead and get this gravity surge set up over here. Now these guys are going to go down regardless, so here I will employ a little bit more of the speedrun strat. And it looks like they're all down anyway, so that works pretty well for us. And come on, there's a lot of just talk that happens here, which is unfortunate. And let's go ahead and chat with Vision so we can get these doors open and move into the next section. Now, generally, the rift located here is going to be down that hallway, but the Nightmare does not have that active. So let's move into this room. And let's go ahead and bring these guys in over here. If he dashes in closer, he's going to get pulled into that as well, which is good. We're now safe from their assaults. And they're all done as of that. Now, I know there's a synergy wall over here, but there is also just a regular box that's hanging out right here on the edge. So let's bust that open. Some relatively low tier ISO, which is pretty standard. And then what's the synergy wall we've got here? It looks like it's going to be another one of the tornadoes. So that's going to get Doom involved on that, and we've just got a health orb. Not exactly what I was looking for. Though it is nice, I suppose, that those are being thrown out because of the nature of these these nightmare curses and such. Now, it's very interesting to me that these opponents that we're facing off with right now don't have any of these curses or attributes active on them. I would have expected that they would, but that does not appear to be the case. So let's get up these stairs. make our way over towards the living room. I think there's another rare loot box that's hanging out over here. It's after we get around this bend. Oh, he just went down. Okay. Yeah, there's going to be a rare box down here at the end of this hallway. And now those guys are down. Works for me. And it's down behind this wall. There's a synergy area there. Now we are starting to see some of these curses come into play. We had some fire and ice here. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw an electric one. And that worked. So let's go ahead and knock into this. An EP restoration, which is not bad. And then let's get this training facility maze taken care of. This is the easier of the two mazes. And though the second one can be a little bit tricky, actually we're going to take you out because you're going to cause me trouble when trying to activate that terminal if I let you stay. But we'll let the other guys take care of the remainder of this crew. And now that they're done, we can bust out this box and make our way over to the living room where we're going to have the last combat stand for today's episode. Interesting that, you know, Wasp is surrounded by drones and then a bunch of them just show up. Looks like we've got some cursed characters here. And we were able to take the two of them out. Then let's pull in these guys. And we're going to have one more wave. No curse attributes active in this one, which is interesting. You'd think, there they are. I was going to say, you would have thought that they would have included more of the curse here with these characters. And they did, they just wasn't apparent right off the bat. Alright, so we just need to walk up to this button, and that's going to be where we call things off for today. So thanks again for watching. If you're enjoying this series, please feel free to leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe for more daily content if you haven't done so already. And we'll be back tomorrow with a brand new Minecraft video. So thanks again, and you have a great rest of your day.